Africa. Pascal?
Thank you. You're doing an amazing job, by the way. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Are we hungry, or what's the energy? So it's really amazing to have you here, and at NOSCAN, we really appreciate your presence, but also we hope that you feel comfortable, you feel at home, you never feel like you are a guest here. So we all see you as hosts, and that is an amazing privilege that we have to be able to interact with people like you, with all these innovators, and it's not something that we can ever take for granted. So really thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of you know a lot about NOSCAN already, but I just want to use this opportunity to tell you a little bit more about NOSCAN, a little bit about the history of NOSCAN, and yeah, why we are here, why this investment was done. Can I have the slides? How does it? We put them. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So, if you see around you here, there is still a lot of work that's being done. So we see this infrastructure as a product. The same way you build an app, you start from an MVP, then you keep adding new features as you get feedback from your users. We also view this infrastructure as a product that is going to be built over time, but the goal is to make this the largest hub for startups in Africa. So already with the phase that we have open, we're the largest in the region, but with the new building behind us that's coming up, and one that's also being designed now that will be behind here, this will be by far the largest hub for startups on the continent. And the reason we are doing this is if you look in the past decades, the world is becoming a better place. Yes, we can complain about many things, but if you look the opportunities we have today compared to the generations of our parents and the grandparents, the world is becoming better thanks to science and technology mostly. But even though there are a lot of good things that we can appreciate, we also still have a lot of challenges. Like we talked yesterday about all the challenges we are seeing in healthcare. We also have the challenges of climate change, for example. We have challenges with online polarization and many other challenges that we need to address. And if you look at the old ways of addressing some of these challenges, we have already noticed this with the COVID pandemic. Really, the old ways of dealing with new challenges we are facing today does not always work. And that's why it is important to have innovations, to have the entrepreneurs who are working on introducing new solutions to these new challenges we are facing. When you see on the continent of Africa, even those challenges, the global challenges I just mentioned, they're even more pronounced here on this continent, which, by the way, is also an opportunity for entrepreneurs that are working to solve them. It's good for humanity, for the planet, but also good, great business opportunities. The bigger the challenges, the bigger the opportunity for you as an entrepreneur. So, in a nutshell, NOSCAN is started as a foundation from Sweden, and the foundation owns several companies. One is Stockholm House, so in like an infrastructure like this in Stockholm, and the other one is Zipline Rwanda Limited, which is the company that is running this infrastructure here. But also besides that, NOSCAN has the funds, venture capital funds that can invest in some of the entrepreneurs in our ecosystem. It's a little bit about the ecosystem of NOSCAN. So we have NOSCAN VC. Is everything okay? So we have Nosken VC that invests mostly in the European startups, and we have Nosken 22, which is a fund that's just got recently launched, $200 million fund to invest in the African scale-up startups. And we also have Africa Seed Fund, which is a much smaller fund that invests in the earlier stage startups. Some we invested that in already based here at Nosken here in Kigali. But why Kigali? We really believe that Kigali has the potential to become one of the leading tech ecosystems on the continent. There is already like signs that are pointing to that directions, but we believe that the future is even more exciting. If you see, like for example, what the minister was saying yesterday, like the government willingness to work with the startups, with innovators, giving them opportunities to try and test their innovations within public health ecosystems. These are kind of prerequisites for a positive environment for startups to flourish. And I will give you an example. Here we also have quite a lot of startups that are even not Rwandan, but they came here to Rwanda to, thank you. These startups, they came here to Rwanda as, to validate their innovations. So as a proof of concept market, and then they can re-export those innovations to their home countries. We have Zipline here. It's a prime example of a company that came to Rwanda to validate their solution, and now they are a unicorn serving customers in 3-4 continents. I'll just skip through this. So when we opened this space in December last year, we had a blessing to have a partner, Novartis Foundation, with whom we worked on launching the HealthTech Hub. And that really, for us, is very important collaboration, because any of these dreams, any of these things we're talking about here, we cannot achieve them alone. So we need the collaborations, we need the partnerships, and we really hope that the success stories that we are hearing from the HealthTech Hub can also be duplicated to other countries, but also other sectors of the economy. So we really appreciate you, Lucy and Anne, and anyone else that wants to work with us to expand even our impact is very much welcome. So thank you very much. I'll give you back the microphone.
Thank you so much, Pascal, for that. And that actually gives us a good transition to our next panel discussion. We're going to be having the conversation on navigating data sharing, consumer protectionism, and privacy laws within the region. Help me welcome to the stage our panelists. I'll start with Alain. Alain Daishimie. He is a project lead, artificial intelligence, machine learning at the Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution, Rwanda. A round of applause as he makes his way to the front. I would also like to introduce Eden Shami. He is the general manager, Zipline Rwanda. Eden, you're welcome. We also have Jean-Maurice Hajenimana, product manager at Verberg Technologies. You're welcome. I'd also like to introduce Umurungi Aime Delphine. She is the program officer for health at Swiss Corporation Office, Great Lakes. Aime, so good to have you with us today. And our moderator for this amazing conversation, I'd like to invite Carl Furi, Deputy Director, Global Goods at Digital Square, Path. You're welcome. There's a chair, actually. Oh, perfect.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. It's great to have everybody here today. It's an exciting time to be part of this panel and to have some exciting conversations. First thing we're going to do, we're going to mix things up a little bit. My panelists haven't quite figured this out yet, but I was told I could do what I want. And short of karaoke, what we're going to do is we're going to move this from a straight panel where we just talk at you, and we're actually going to ask you to engage a little bit more. So we're going to bring some chairs up on the stage, maybe another one or two, if we can get a volunteer to bring one up. And the idea around this is we're going to talk a little bit about the regulatory aspects that we deal with here in the continent, and particularly Rwanda and the region itself. As our panelists go forward, toward about halfway through, we're going to invite you that if you have a question or a comment that you'd like to make, join us. Make your point, have a question, have a discussion, and then make space for the next person to come on board. But as we get into that, what I'd like to do is just take a moment and go down the chairs and ask each of my panelists to introduce themselves, their excitement about being here and what they do, and really why they're here, what do they bring to the table. So we'll start here.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Before I start, I want to take this opportunity actually to congratulate Pascal and the rest of your team for this amazing work, and also for the North Kenya Novartis team to put together this opportunity for us to exchange. I was introduced by the moderator. My name is Elenda Ishimie. I'm the project lead for AI and machine learning at the new Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution here in Rwanda. And my work mainly revolves around identifying gaps in policy, regulation, and working on regimes and frameworks that really push for adoption of these fourth industrial revolution technologies that we're all excited about, but also thinking about the risks and trying to mitigate any consequences that may arise from these technologies. So I'm excited to be with you today. I think the last question was what excites me here. I think it's the engagement and the excitement in the room. And I look forward to the exchanges of the day. Thank you.
Hi, this is Eme. I work for a Swiss Development and Cooperation Agency that is representing a Switzerland embassy in Rwanda. I'm Health and Nutrition Officer, and I work with the development partners as the embassy is one of the donors in supporting the government of Rwanda on the initiatives of health and nutrition. So my work engage with the Ministry of Health and other development partners and assessing the needs that aligns with the sector, and also supporting interventions that has been already initiated and supported by Switzerland embassy here in Rwanda. So my time being here, talking about the regulations, as I mentioned, I work at the Ministry of Health in Rwanda. I work with the development partners, and including health facilities and including other institutions that are supporting improving health outcomes. So I would appreciate to talk about maybe some of the initiatives already in place, and maybe other tasks to do, because the journey ahead is still there. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jean-Maurice Hajenimana. I'm product manager at VABEG Medical. VABEG Medical is also a product of VABEG Technologies. VABEG Medical has a solution with where we do have an online platform. It's AI powered, which brings which deals with the data from the hospitals and also clinics. So basically, our platform helps our clinics, different clinics and hospitals to purchase product from us, and also to deliver to them from also to suppliers and manufacturers. This platform also helps our client to have an automated inventory management system, which also helps them to overcome these supply chain problems which we are addressing here in Rwanda. Basically, we work here in Rwanda. We do have office here in Kigali. We have also the other office in Rubavu. Recently, we have opened also the new office in Bukavu. We have also the other agents in Burundi and also Kenya. So our biggest mission is also to revive this supply chain which has broken by focusing only on medical products and medical equipment. So I'm really happy to be around here as we are working together closely with hospitals and clinics. Regulations is really crucial point to be reflected on in order to help sustainably our client by saving a lot of lives through well-maintained supply chain.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shami Eden Benimana. First of all, thank you. That was not me. Thank you to Carl and the other panelists for being here with us, and thank you all for joining us. As was said, I'm the general manager of Zipline Rwanda. I'm trying to find the best way to start. I don't want to start by saying we are a drone company, but that's what everybody likes to hear. But Zipline is a logistics company. We provide an electric, autonomous, instant delivery system nationwide in Rwanda and in 6 other countries. Pascal was mentioning we are on 3 continents, the American continent, the African continent, and the Asian continent. We've been doing this since 2016. Rwanda is our longest established market. And what we do, we started with use cases in the health sector, specifically the distribution of blood and medical products around the country. We serve health facilities all across Rwanda. And recently we are trying to innovate and expand the scope of what we do. And we've gone into nutrition, child nutrition, the fight against malnutrition. We are distributing products in partnership with the NCDA, and we are working on a project with the Rwanda Agriculture and Animal Resources Board for the increase of farmers' production, specifically in the production of protein and vaccination of animals across the country. How do we come in here? When Zipline started, we were the first, the first commercial drone company operating nationwide in the world. And we've had 6 years of working with the government to really establish how does this look like? What's a good framework that allows for the business to grow, but while also not going outside of the laws and the regulations. And within this space, I feel like we can contribute some to the experience that we've had and potentially ask the right questions. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. So as you can see, today we have some amazing experiences here, from AI and research to public health to supply chains in on the ground and aeronautics, or as your NASA space station is the way I like to think of it. But you're all looking very quiet and very chilled right now. So just a quick show of hands. Who's actually engaging with the question of regulations and projects right now that you're from the audience? So there's only really 3 of you that we're talking to. Maybe we should put the mic down and just continue from there. And it's an exciting space to be thinking about, really. You know, it's one of those things that we don't really understand. Okay. Apparently it is something we do understand. It's something that we have to deal with consistently. And from your experiences, you know, there are a range of regulations that are known and maybe not so much known. But probably starting with the first one, what would you say are some of the must-know regulations when getting into this particular space right now? And maybe we'll just walk down the panel bit by bit. And which of those that are well matured, and maybe those that are in development or should potentially come to light?
Thank you. I think we're talking about regulation, and one of the most pressing challenges we're looking at right now is how do we regulate these emerging technologies, given that these technologies are running on data. So that is the biggest equation right now in trying to really understand what's the best fit for each individual nation, but also how do we also harmonize and integrate in a way that would make sense, both from an economic value, but also beyond that from a social and a cultural sense. I'll give you examples of Rwanda, and maybe my colleagues will complement. When we started the center, we joined just around the same time the Rwandan government was drafting the new data protection law, which was gazetted last year in October. And the first of its draft really looked at data localization as something that Rwanda would benefit from. Talking about Rwanda trying to compete in this global economy, looking at the continental trade-free area coming into effect, what did this law mean to us? So we really had to really understand how to really participate, but beyond that, how do we also enable the privacy and also the protection of the data, the owners of the data. So the new law looks into really giving the power back to the citizens in terms of their privacy, but also in terms of control and the protection of their data by giving a set of principles and guidelines that really help any company, be it in Rwanda or outside of Rwanda, that wants to process data of Rwandan citizens to ensure that they're putting the right safeguards in place to enable all these beautiful things that you guys have been talking about for the past 2 days to happen. Beyond that, we have legislation or a law that has been benchmarked on international best practices. We're looking at the GDPR, we're looking at the Marable Conventions, and elsewhere. And one question that kept on coming to mind was, does this law really make sense by benchmarking on these best practices, or are these the best practices given the Rwandan context? And one thing that came back to my mind was that a lot of these laws seem to be more of a copy-paste of the GDPR or of some sort, but really is not specific or doesn't address the challenges on the ground. So the new Rwandan law tries to really understand what we can borrow, but contextualize it to a sense that makes Rwanda position itself as a test bed and launchpad for a lot of these technologies that you amazing talent are building here. So the question again is, how do we really have a law that makes sense? Beyond having a law that makes sense, how do we harmonize that we are playing on a level playing field with our partners, be it regionally, also on the global stage? But beyond that, what are the benefits that the end user or the data owner is going to benefit from? So I'll pause here, but I just wanted to highlight some of the few achievements that Rwanda has registered for the past few years. But beyond that, the Rwandan's data journey has been complemented by various policies and strategies that have been enacted over the years. If you think about the NIKI ones all the way to the Smart Rwanda Master Plan, that emphasizes that data and all these other technologies that you guys are building are paramount, especially if you're trying to achieve either the UN Sustainable Development Goals, but beyond that also, how do we position Rwanda as the knowledge-based economy that we keep on referring to, be it within the 2030 timeline or beyond that to the 2050 target of pushing Rwanda into a middle economy. So I'll pause there and give the opportunity to my colleagues also to comment or maybe to add on what I said. But we really need to be approaching this idea of regulation within the context of our priorities, our demographic position, our national interests, and also putting or registering or creating this legislation around the people it's going to affect the most. Be the creators, be the consumers, and also really understanding the impact in the long run. So thank you, and I'll give the opportunity for the others also to comment.
Amy, we've chatted a little bit beforehand, and just building on the back of this, I know we cheated, we spoke before, but you've got experience in the public health space, and building on this fact that you actually brought up this new law that's come out, you know, building on that, what are other things that entrepreneurs and innovators need to think about, particularly considering the focus at health right now?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Speaking for the public health sector, and as my colleague has mentioned, that the law is already in place for Rwanda, which means maybe other particular places that the law has to be translated by each ministry. Currently, the Ministry of Health is developing a guideline that make to translate this law in public health and clinical settings. And when I say clinical settings, is the hospital, the treatment of patients or clients. And when we talk about the public health, it means the community health and research aspect. So beside that, when you look at the sensitivity of health sector, normally there is what we call medical deontology that gives what I call a commitment. all health professionals have to give a commitment for non-discrimination, for confidentiality, for protection of data of the clients. That is in place already. And there is some medical councils already in place that have, they do the monitoring, how is this respected, how patients are treated. I can give you an example of a software that is used in a treatment, Open Clinic. Some of you know it. And the Open Clinic is a software that is used mainly in health facilities where you show the historical of the patients from the consultation to the billing side to lab technician, how they do the test, how they record the result to the test that have been prescribed by the physicians. And when you look at this, it doesn't give access to everyone. They are different, of course. There is a physician who opens the file of the patients and records the claim of the patient. The physician should have overall aspect, over access to every data, because you are treating a patient. But when it goes to lab technician, it's not, you are not going to see the claim of the patient. You only see what is the test requested. Is it a blood test? Is it a urine test? You do that. You enter the result for the physician to see. So there is a protection of the patients. It's not everyone who is going to see the record of your record, that what is your purpose for coming to the hospital. And for this system not giving access to everyone, I think there is a protection of the patients. And when you see again to the medical councils that are in place, why the medical councils? Because as I mentioned, before you start your profession as a medical doctor, you have to give a commitment that you are not disclosing any patient information. And once you have this allegation that you have done so, the medical council can take you to courts. There are punishments. So these are regulations already in place, apart from the guideline that is being developed at the Ministry of Health to translate this law. But already, because of the sensitivity of health sector, things have been in place. Of course, a lot has to be done to reinforce, to monitor, and also to make sure that really there is full respect and protection of individuals. So that is what I may say. Regarding the public health, when I come to research, there is, call it randomized clinical trial research or cross-sectional surveys. Whatever study you have to do, you have to prove that you have understanding of ethical consideration. This ethical consideration mainly goes to the rights, to understand the rights, and also to understand that you are dealing with the human subjects, not materials. So this is another way in a public health that we, all public health professionals have to abide with, to respect the privacy and the protection of patients. Then I may start by then, so that my colleague also may complement. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's quite valuable to remember that the space we're working in is a clinical, a client-based patient area. Remember, we don't use patients, we will talk about clients these days. And it's exciting to think about it because we have very private personal information that can be used in a discriminatory fashion and also in an uplifting fashion. So these laws and regulations exist for a reason. And I'm glad that you highlighted the fact that the ministry is working on guidelines to help those in the health space understand how the new law applies to it. I'm sure we're going to have the only 3 people working on regulations here apparently will probably come and ask you about where do we find those. So that's something to think about. But you guys have been in the space for a while. Yeah, Jean-Maurice, you're in health, a little to the side with supply and medicines. How has the regulatory aspect impacted the way you've looked at the provision of your services, and what are some of the challenges that you're having around data at the moment?
Well, thank you. Before I talk on the challenges, I would like to really give thanks to Rwandan government. Have already really done remarkable job by putting on the regulation, the laws, which really governs around these online pharmacies. That's where I'm really tackling on the business aspect. And also, this goes deeper on data sharing. So when it comes to the challenges, in the medical aspect, you need also to be somehow specific and well detailed when you are trying to give the details about what you want to highlight, what you want to share, which data you really want to share. So, for example, at VBEG Medical, we are data-driven company as well as wholesaler to the pharmacy wholesaler. So through this landscape, we really meet with a lot of challenges. We have to work in hand with EMRs, electronic medical records. Different hospitals does use those EMRs, but they really focus only on medicine product. So yes, we sell those medicine products, but not yet only those, because we add also equipment, hospital equipment. So these data sharing comes into play by enabling also other third parties to make investment. So if you're going to share these sensitive data concerning about medicine, we are not talking about only equipment, you're going to be to meet with a lot of challenges where you have as an independent investor, we want to invest in a single deal. You have also to be associated with a pharmacist or well-experienced medical person, just to be aware to how to read those data, those given away data. So once you want to explore these business models depending on data, it's a little bit challenging because there is not there enough the details which has to be clarified, what or where you have to be limited in order to acquire those information depending on the data from the hospital or from pharmaceutical wholesalers. So it is still a way of making it. Yes, Rwanda has done a remarkable job of setting up regulations also together with the Health Ministry and the FDA. But as we are heading in by using data in exploring different business models, it is becoming much more clear how to categorize, how to put into standard format those data in order to be well explored. So these in the future days, I'm believing that it will be enabling a lot of enthusiastic in investment to explore this given away data, but according to the regulations, of course. Once this data has been highlighted and given a true path by depending on the scope, character, and also who is able to view this data. So I think right now, data is being really helping a lot of people, not leaving behind also us as a business company, because it really gives us a head for the people who are using the software that we have provided to the public. It's really easy to help them also to grow as a companies, because hospitals and clinics, they are at the end the companies. Yesterday we were considering clients, not patient as clients, because they are first level of making income to the hospitals and the clinics. So by the time that we will be having in place a rule or a regulation which really clears which data or even helps the clinics and the hospitals to sort out the kind of data which has to be provided to the business aspect, this will be easy to the other third parties who are really want to enjoy short investment and other short deals which might also help the development of the general public as well.
Thank you. I think there's a really interesting aspect. We've really moved into down the line and looking very much at data and the governance around data itself. Shami, switching out a little bit more, I'm going to ask you the same question. So what regulations have you had to look at in terms of your very diverse aspect of, to sky to ground blood banking area itself? But before we get into that, what is your definition of regulation? Like when we talk about it, what does that mean to you, and what are you expecting those regulations to cover to help you with your business?
Thank you. Carl reserved the easiest of questions for me. That's always a good question. I think over the last few years, as we've got to look more and more into how the health system works, that has been an evolving concept for us as a company and as a people. I think when we started at the very beginning, we were dealing a lot with the aviation sector because that was the first challenge. We were trying to see how do we even start. But then the moment we start interfacing with district hospitals and all kinds of health facilities from the provincial level down to the health posts, literally. It becomes now an interaction that's direct with public, the healthcare professionals who are in the public sector, but then the patients on their end as well. So what do we see as regulation? It's really the tools to enable us to do what we need to do, to make sure that we are respecting the clients that we're interfacing with. And those clients are multiple. For us, we define a client, a stakeholder as anybody who is literally in Rwanda, because we are flying over everybody, delivering products which are supposed to save somebody. We don't need to know who we are saving. We just need to know that there's a doctor who needs to, I don't know, inject, I don't know what kind of solutions or give blood to somebody. So it becomes a whole aspect of what do we need to do to still do our mission of helping the healthcare practitioners deliver the best service to the clients so that the health outcomes are the best at the end of the day.
Fantastic. We're going to switch style up a little bit right now. So if anybody'd like to join us on stage, and we're going to ask some questions, you know, having heard how regulations have been thought about and impacted and looked, what are some of the strategies that we think are possible to really look at how do we harmonize the access to the right regulations and create a way to make it more accessible to know, as you bring a product in the market, who you need to talk to and which regulations are going to be impacting yourself. So I'm curious, from each of your perspectives, like how would you approach that? And it's an open question to the first person to the microphone.
I think this goes back to the idea of a multi-stakeholder approach to actually problem solving. Having different voices and perspectives from different actors, from industry, from academia, from civil society, from government, from public sector, would really give you that insight that's needed, so that once you're putting all these good regulations together, you have something that's best fit for whatever purpose or the intentions you're looking at. A multi-stakeholder approach, I think, is something that I would advocate for. And it's something that we really advocate for at the center. How do we really collaborate and build use cases that validate also that this regulation or this law we're putting in place really is sound or is fit for the purpose it was intended for. Through this, we ensure that, again, all voices are heard, and we are addressing each issue at every intersection to ensure that these technologies, once deployed, they're deployed in a way that's safe, in a way that's reliable, in a way that's trustworthy. Thank you.
Just building on that once before Amy comes up, you just mentioned the aspects of technologies being built safely and deployed properly and effectively, to paraphrase a little bit there. Are there draft regulations in play in Rwanda at the moment that are providing governance and guidance as to what constitutes a safe tool and then what constitutes a well-deployed implementation?
So I think that's one of the reasons why the center is in place. So we are not just a think tank, but we also do think how to really now start experimenting with what makes sense. So through the multi-stakeholder approach that I mentioned, we really sit down with industry and all these key players to define the pathways for success. So what does a success look like? What is the best way to deploy? How do you deploy in a setup that really, once the product is out there, it's ready to be used or consumed by market, it's ready to be used in a safe way, it has met all the check requirements that we have defined. I'll give you an example. Again, we're working with a startup here, Incitive. It's a radiology and teleradiology product that's being built here by Rwandan kids. and they were facing an issue of actually how to go to market. One of the issues is that there's no defined pathways to really define what first a medical device is, given that this is a new field that's constantly changing. How do you regulate software in healthcare, and so on. Through very different iterations we have had and consultations, both from the private sector or from also government, we're trying to convene a framework that really makes sense to give us a roadmap that anybody with similar frustrations would have an easier way to market. To market doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go straight to market. It also gives you the opportunity to test your product. Sometimes you have these really good ideas in your head, they seem to be heaven sent, but once they go to the market, maybe that's not the solution that we're really looking for. Is the market ready to consume your product? Is it a solution you're providing to a problem? Are you best fit in terms of even your structure, in terms of the people you're working with? Is the product validated? We'll look into all those things and actually start now putting together a framework that really makes us tick the right checkbox. Rwanda has pushed for regulatory sandboxes. The best example is in fintech, where any fintech company with an innovative solution or a solution that's adding to or advancing the technologies already on the market can go test the product for a given period of time in a controlled environment. Through that interaction, the regulator now sits down with the innovator to really understand what the technology is, how it can be regulated, but beyond that also help the innovator understand the needs from a regulatory perspective, and also give them the opportunity to understand their market before they can actually jump into business. I think I've answered the question, so I'll pause there and give the rest also an opportunity to interact.
I could probably spend a day talking to you about this kind of stuff, but I want to pause a bit and see if there's any thoughts or comments from our other colleagues. Shami?
Alan talked about exactly what's existing and then how is it established. But before we get to what's existing, it's always good to think about how do we even know what's existing or what's missing. And that's a big part of the work that the startups here are doing and the work that Zipline has been doing as well. We look at the innovations that are already happening here. He talked about Incitive. We talked about Zipline 5 years ago, but there are all kinds of solutions that are coming up. We are getting to an era where patient care needs to be delivered at the closest location from the patient. We have people who have diabetes. We have people who have cancer. We do not want them to move. As Zipline, we are trying to define a solution that comes and goes literally as close as we can get. Now, within that space, as we push the bounds beyond, we're trying to work with government step by step, do a small proof of concept, see what are the stages which are missing in terms of regulation, have that space to work. He was talking about sandbox environments. It's not exactly that, but it's a space that allows us to try things, and then government and through organizations like C4IR see what's missing, and then they put in place regulations which meet and match that. And it's what we were talking about earlier. It's not just establishing regulations for the sake of regulation. It's more like establishing a regulation which meets the national interests, but then addresses businesses which are coming up, not just that blocks everybody down there from actually coming and establishing a sustainable long-term solution.
Thank you, Ka. I was also contemplating, I totally agree with the views of my colleagues. And apart from the public-private partnerships, I would suggest that there should be some platforms that regular to make the medical personnel and entrepreneurs to talk. Because when I'm in the public health sector, I have my understanding. When you are an entrepreneur, you have your own understanding. And some of the queries may come because we are using different lenses. But once you have places where we talk, I may get to understand you, you may get to understand me. So I just want to, for example, some of the issues that comes, why is not some health facilities not making available data to people who want to do research? And I think there is a place There are some regulations already in place. There is National Ethical Committee. There are also institution review boards. Once you are interested to do some research, of course you have to prove some capabilities in terms of dealing with the subject, human subject, because this is human subject, not material subject. This is ethical consideration, what you call ethical considerations. And you may not master the public health sector, but once you have in a public-private partnerships, you may have somebody who understands that. And there are procedures. Once you are interested to do some research, you make your protocol, you go to National Ethics Committee or institutional review boards. For example, he wants to use some data from the CHK, that is the health facility, then it's very easy. I've used that on my thesis research and it works. But from a different perspective, you may judge it wrong or delaying or tedious, but the core of this is the protection of the data, the protection of people's privacy. So they want to make sure that you understand what is involved. What is your responsibility is not first to do research, to make sure that you respect and you protect people's privacy. So I think the issue may be clear once there are regular platform, people talk. I'm not mastering entrepreneur, but entrepreneur, they have their strengths. They have money, they have skills, we can use them. Let's talk, understand what they are able to do, and talk with the public health professionals. They have their own strengths. That is the research tool that entrepreneurs may not understand, but we all value each other, and that's when it's coming the consortium, the partnership, and we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Sorry,
Jean-Marie, you want to go first?
It's really okay. Yeah, May has mentioned. She has mentioned also that this is 3 Ps: public-private partnership. Yes, it's really needed to be there as a platform, also to always reflect to what is going on in certain sectors. Specifically, when it comes to the health sector, it's really sensitive. It's vital, not only to a personal level, but also to the national level. Because if you don't have people, you don't have a nation. So if you want to really have a healthy people, well monitored, let me use this word, it's also, this platform is really needed also to highlight from each perceptions. Public has their own way of viewing laws and regulations. And also private, they are really that much more experienced, if I may use this word also, because they are really tend to know exactly the problem which they want to address. So this is where it comes putting these regulations about the law, which specifies exactly which data have to be shared in policies that then they have to be highlighted before. And once anyone who is really joining this platform of 3 Ps, so then they can be aware where to go, what to look for, and who to talk to. So this really reminds me also to the public sector, that they really, I'm not sure yet, maybe someone who's well informed about it can really highlight about it. Most of the time, we should also have this institution which can help this individual person from our official public also to pass through technical aspect into different respective sectors. So then they can know, yes, this can be digitalized. Yes, this data should be shared in this format, in these other well-detailed channels, which can really help both parties. Thank you.
Now, I just wanted to add on what I mentioned previously, with the kind of interactions we have with Incitive. I forgot to mention that, so a lot of these regulations may be coming from top going down. So they're usually government-led because of certain priorities. But as we start talking about innovation and going to market, I think it's time for a lot of these startups to really take that seat of defining what it really means for them to go to market in terms of the regulation. That is why we're working with partners like Novartis, and I encourage everybody, all the startups that are here that are facing any regulatory challenges, to come and approach us, especially through the center, and really try and understand some of these gaps and challenges you're facing. what we do, we really sit down, look at the challenges, define the path of the way forward, and beyond that also do what we call policy briefs that we share with the government. That through these briefs we have these recommendations that that may be adapted within regulation and policy, and really give you that opportunity to have a voice in how you want your product to be regulated, or you want to really understand what the regulatory environment looks like for you. So this is something that we hope to scale up through the Novartis Foundation again, maybe even go beyond Africa. How do you really now start giving the seat to the innovators to take that, that senior or that front row seat with the regulator to design some of these protocols and frameworks that really address their challenges? Thank you.
Fantastic. I'm just going to pause. Are there any questions from the audience while we have a little time here? Do we have a roaming microphone by any chance? Oh, we have a few. Great.
Thank you very much. I'm Augustine Chiza from the AE Trade Group. So my question is about the 3 Ps that you were talking about. So Alain, what is your advice for the conservative entrepreneurs? The conservative entrepreneurs who always think that they are the best. And then they should always follow the same routines. Because when it comes to data and approaching as an entrepreneur, it's always hard because we entrepreneurs, we think our solutions are the best. So what's your advice for those conservative entrepreneurs?
Okay, we're going to take 2 or 3 questions and then we'll answer those as we go.
Hello everybody, my name is Aristide Karasira. I'm the CEO and the co-founder of HarakaMed. So we are a digital platform that specializes in systems and logistics of healthcare products. Our initial product was an online pharmacy. So I want to share today about our experience in engaging in such a regulated part of healthcare. Initially we came in as a logistic company, and as we evolved over time, we found out that we cannot just stay in the logistics. We have also to engage in the data collecting, because this was really imperative. So once you get those data, there's also, you start to protect them. You need to protect them as a company or as a business that's dealing with confidential information. So one of, I would like to highlight something that helped us along the way is having tech people on the company, also healthcare professionals. So it's always an advantage for any company or startup to have all the both ends of the business, having the people driving the business, the tech part, and also people who make sure everything goes in line with the regulation. So that's a tip I would give to startups and any healthcare business that's looking to do some innovation in the sector. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks for that. As we go to another question, I want to ask if you have an opinion to share, please come join me on a chair here. We'll happily let that happen. If you've got a question, let's raise it from the audience.
Thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much. My name is Arnaud, and I'm from .Pharma Limited. My question is goes to the panelists, any of the panelists, about, there has been that concern of privacy that made healthcare providers here, I mean hospitals, clinics, pharmacies, wanting to protect data privacy, their patient privacy, which made people wanting to operate, in silo, if I can say, because, finding healthcare system hosted locally. And I think that's may constitute a barrier to quality data, but also data access. And I wanted to hear from any of the panelists about what, from a technical but also a regulatory point of view, how can we ensure effective interoperability? Like, how can people or systems work together to make researchers and people who want data to access them safely, but also easily from, like, at a one-stop center where you can access data from wherever you are. Thank you.
Fantastic. So we have some great questions coming out there, really looking at the question of data access. How are we able to pull data in a regulated way between systems rather than replicating, leveraging interoperability? And I think there was a nod towards local hosting and a few things. Lucy, your last question?
A last question, very provocative because I know all of you and all of you know me, but I just wanted your thoughts on one question. So we work a lot around health equity, and last year I gave you our definition of what health equity is, and for those of you who don't remember, that means that not only we want people to have the same kind of access to essential health services, but also the same quality. And to do so, we often work not only with health data, but also not health data coming from completely different sectors. So the question is, how do you see the future of data sharing between different sectors to drive innovation for population health, for health equity, like at a large scale? Because you need a lot of data and data coming from different places. How do you see the future of health equity in that respect?
All right, I think we have 3 PhD topics up here. We're going to try and move through them as quickly as we can, respecting our time and all that. But maybe jumping to the first one, really that advice for, I think their word was the conservative entrepreneur, getting started in this space, who wanting to get into. What is the thoughts? Anybody want to offer, like, how do you get started?
Yeah, I think, first of all, I don't agree with the entrepreneur that thinks they have it right. The only person that would tell you that you have it right is your end consumer, the user of whatever solution you're providing. We all wake up one morning, we see something, an issue that's specific to us, and we feel like we can solve it out of our dreams and aspirations. But a successful entrepreneur is the one that's humble. It's the one that really understands the problem, and it's the one that's providing a unique solution. Or if the solution is not unique, are you providing something that is adding value to what exists? We're talking about, say, healthcare, for example. I wake up one morning and my blood sugar levels are high, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had a device that can tell me about my blood sugar levels in my dreams, for example, before I wake up. Is it the right solution? Who's your client? Who's the end users? How does it impact your society? And what's the economic value within the product you're developing? It's a combination of so many things. It's a journey that requires patience, that requires putting thoughts together, your thoughts, getting feedback from other people and other key players within the innovation you're trying to put on the market. So the entrepreneur that thinks they have it right, I would request or ask them to really sit back and really look at what product they're giving to the market, who's the user, what solution are they providing, is it unique in the sense that nobody has done it before, and I will guarantee you that most of the ideas we think of, they're not unique. They're inspired by things we've seen, experiences we have had, and you're not the only one thinking about that way. But the most successful ones are the ones that build on those aspirations, get feedback, also accept to fail. If you accept to fail, you give it room to grow, you give it room to really understand the journey, and it gives you an opportunity also that once you fail the second time, you know that it's possible to stand up again. So those are my, that's my contribution towards that entrepreneur that's conservative. But I believe here at this space, it gives you, working in these spaces gives you the opportunity to really understand even what's going on. You meet people within your field, you interact, you hear the frustrations, and you really sit back and reflect on your journey. So I think everybody that's part of this Noshken community should be proud of themselves, because this is an opportunity, because those conservatives don't really even come to these spaces. They want to keep it to themselves. They want to excite the world in the sense that, hey, I'm the one doing it, I'm the one who has the solution, but in the sense, you really haven't been out there to really understand the kind of impact that your solution will have on the market. So those are my comments, but I invite anybody on the panel also to make any additions.
Thank you. I want to start on one point that was raised by Anez, just by saying that we need to consultate to bring people together. So in my understanding is, I told you about it, it's just using different lenses. Thanks to Novartis and Noski for such a platform where you see different people from different backgrounds, entrepreneurs, public professionals, clinical professionals, to sit to talk. It's really hard to understand business from my side because that's not my background. But once I get time, you talk. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, I get something. And you come in my public health professionalism, you may not understand everything now. It may take you time to understand. So for me, what I may say, we are on a good track, on a good foundation. Maybe we need to increase the momentum. And thanks to Novartis and Noski, just to create such a platform. It's so sad that at a space like this, you may not see medical doctors. You may not see nurses. You may not see pharmacists that are dealing maybe to hear, because this can be a platform to discuss, but also a platform to give feedback. Because you may not understand what you are doing unless you get the feedback. You may think that you are right 100%, but when you hear the feedback, totally a challenge. So for me, I may say that when it comes to how to make data available, access to everyone, I think there are mechanisms in place. I told you about National Ethics Committee. There is institutional review boards, different health facilities that can be able to provide such. They are having these institutions in place. And the requirements are there, of course, as I mentioned. One of the requirements, understanding ethical considerations and implications, because this data is on human subject. So we may talk and talk and talk. How do you now harmonize? Do we get to the level to satisfy entrepreneurs? How do we get to the level to comply with what is in place? It's a matter of discussion. It's a matter of having regular platform where people talk. It's not one-day job. It's not finishing here, but maybe I can see that we have started. Yeah. There is a complaint on the side of entrepreneurs. There are complaints on the side of medical personnel, because you understand your own word, you don't want to hear, but regular platform, regular talk may reach you to a consensus. That's just to summarize the feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. I know we've got about 2 minutes left, and we really want to try honor and bring some of these other questions. So I'm going to ask those questions that came from the floor to please follow up with the panelists on here. We have 2 people who've come up to share a quick opinion. We're going to just give one here, and then we'll summarize.
Thank you so much. My name is Masood. I come from Tanzania. I work with a health research organization, and now we have the innovation space. Currently, I'm managing. So I'm here just to give like a quick feedback or experience from where I come from, especially on regulations issues. You know, back to my country, we have a lot of these regulators or assessment agencies when it comes to medical innovation. We have the authorities for medical devices. We have authorities maybe for science, for Commission for Science and Technology. We have a lot of, like almost 5 government agencies that are working to regulate or to manage these innovators. So at some point, we had some challenges with our innovators. For example, you might, we had one of the innovators who was working on the CPAP machine. And then when he goes to Tanzania Medical Innovation Advices Authority, and then they ask him to go to NIMRI. NIMRI stands for National Research Institute. And then when you go to NIMRI, you should go to COSTECH. COSTECH is Commission for Science and Technology. So all those kind of issues. So at some point, we had to ask them to be on the same page. So we created a forum like this last year. And this is where we brought all these agencies that regulate these innovations, especially to medical-related innovations. So at the end of the day, we agreed to develop a regulatory framework where it can at least provide the clear guidelines. Like for this stage, you should consult maybe the Commissioner for Science and Technology. For this stage, you should go to National Research Institute. So at least that's just to begin with. But again, I have quick question to you guys from Rwanda, because I remember yesterday Honorable Minister mentioned something about the registry platform where you can have an anonymous data where the innovators can access those data to develop the solutions. So how far are you? And also could be part for us to learn. And for me, I feel like the registry itself is not also enough to our innovators. I think we need a sandbox. My colleague here from Fourth Industrial Revolution Center mentioned about the sandbox. And this is where I remember even one of the speakers yesterday mentioned like for medical innovation, the way we are right now, the place we are, is for our friends from FinTech, it's almost like 15 years or 10 years ago. Yes, so this is something I think that for them, for the FinTech industry, I think the sandbox helped them a lot. So I think it's high time for us also to learn how we can adopt the sandbox on medical innovation. So that's it.
Great. I think we're at time right now, but I'm going to steal another 2 minutes just to wrap up and try and get one answer here. But just in summary, I'd love to ask each of you to run through, and I'm going to time you at 30 seconds, a summary of maybe if you want to respond to that question, or what do you think the next steps are going to be? From what we've heard today is that there's some amazing work going on here around setting data privacy laws in the country, that it's being adopted and aligned by the Ministry of Health to a practical guideline for entrepreneurs and innovators. We have the development of sandboxes and the looking into accreditation and validation of technologies, whether they're aligned to these laws, whether they're aligned to best clinical practices, and that there needs to be a conversation between clinicians and technologists and entrepreneurs to ensure that you're actually making the difference that you think you're making, and you're not harming anybody. Because in the end, this is the world where you can kill someone with the wrong technology. And it's quite a weight to carry. It's not an easy thing to get into. If you get into the finance world, all you do is lose money. But here, you lose lives to go through. So I think it's an exciting opportunity, some great questions. I'm sorry we're not going to get to you today, but I'm going to go down here quickly. Like, any final thoughts? Quick 30 seconds wrap up.
I just wanted to end up by encouraging the startups, especially here, that are innovating within the healthcare system, to actually start having these conversations. I've actually had an opportunity to visit some of these startups, and you find that they're really not communicating. They're really not sharing some of these frustrations. And there's no other way to really understand what the regulator needs to put in place for you guys to advance your technologies. So I really want to take this opportunity to highlight that you need those conversations. You need to come together and put together some of these frustrations on paper so that we can have these policy briefs we share with government. You mentioned about how do we enable trusts and in terms of data exchanges. We're actually working on a cloud infrastructure project, and I would invite Novartis actually to explore that opportunity, especially given that it's a cross-cutting infrastructure that will host a lot of this data and all these technologies that enable this technology to move forth, and invite everybody else who really wants to learn more about the center to reach out after these conversations. But once again, thanks for Novartis and everybody that has participated today, including the panel. I'm grateful.
Thank you from my end. I would like to, first of all, there is a responsibility to disseminate what is already in place. I think there is awareness of what is, we are talking next step, but also these regulations, some of them, people may not know them. The data protection law for Rwanda, people may not know them. The institutional holders, they don't know them. So I think the first step is, first of all, to for each institutions to make sure that their staffs, their beneficiaries, the people they work with, they raise awareness for that. And another thing is I would encourage more, as there is innovation for health, solution for health, more discussions between entrepreneurs and the health professionals. Because for you to say that you are bringing a solution for help, you mean that you understand what is the gap from the health professionals. There is a discussion. Before you appreciate the prize, before you say this is a good innovation for health, there should be bringing a solution. For example, these cardiovascular diseases, if we are using, for example, developing a software
Amy,
for...
I'm going to pause you. We're going to run out of time. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Please chat to you afterwards.
Yes, I would say that you need to sit. There is digital chief officer for the Ministry of Health. You need to talk with them to understand the gaps before you go on with your innovation. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. Thank you so much, everybody. We've run out of time. We've run over time. Please, thank you for your thoughts, your questions, and let's give a round of applause to our panelists. Appreciate it.
And the conversations are getting better and better because we have another panel on how artificial intelligence is empowering efficiency in the public health system. That will be the next panel that will be happening. But before we get into that, we are going to hear from amazing 6 startups. They will be pitching to us on their solutions, and I'd like all of you to be nice, smile, wave, and be attention. Just show them that you're also engaging as they pitch their solutions to us today. I'd like to ask our first speech, which is actually not here with us physically, but she'll be doing
she's really in a lot of pain and she can't manage to go and get the pain relievers for herself in the pharmacy. And as her daughter, I'm at work, so I'm not allowed to help her out. As a person who uses medication on a daily basis, she really needs information on some other alternative ways, such as like information on some food supplements or some other vitamins that can help her health without using medication and pills, which we know has some side effect. Also, she needs daily support. She needs specialists to take care of her, to know her condition. So like my mother, there are some other people out there who has those problems, those health problems. And that's where .Pharma Limited comes in. My name is Zipline Rwanda. I'm the co-founder and the current managing director at .Pharma Limited. Okay, since they are fixing stuff, maybe I should be talking to you. So how many of you needs healthcare products, like pills or any other pharmaceutical product? By the show of hands. Oh, we have a lot of clients. So how many of you wish they could be helped to get them at their doorstep? For example, when you are at the weekend, you are exhausted, you don't want to go to the nearby pharmacy, but you need the medication. How many of you wish they could be delivered those medication at their home? Okay. How many of you just wonder some information on different advices about health, like gaining weight, in my case, like really, gaining weight or losing weight? How many think that if they get that kind of information, it would really help their health? By the show of hand. Okay, so I see we have a very big market. I can't wait to have you as my clients. So I think the pitch deck is ready. Yeah, as I was saying, my name is Zipline Rwanda. I'm the current managing director at .Pharma and the co-founder. And .Pharma helps you to find medicine at your fingertip. So let me take you through the problems that we face, or some of the clients face, that caused us to really come up with .Pharma. Some people have the problem of reduced mobility. They can't find ways to go and get medical products or medical services by their own. Also, some of them has the problem of availability. They know where to get medication, they know where to get healthcare services, but they are not available. They are so busy, so they can't get it for themselves. Others has the problem of accessibility. They can't access it. Like, they know the medication they're looking for, they know the services, the specialists they need to talk to, but they can't access it. Like, they can't find a way to talk to those people. Other problem is there are some products by the stereotype, by the culture, that cause stigma to people who uses it. For example, healthcare product that relates to sexual and reproductive health. It still causes a lot of stigma for a person going to a pharmacy and saying, hey, can you get me a condom? It's still a problem. Also, there is the third biggest problem, which is misinformation on particular healthcare advices. People are not misinformed on what healthcare practices that they can be using to really get healthy. That's where .Pharma comes in. We brought you a solution that is easy, that helps a customer to easy and timely access healthcare product and healthcare services remotely. Also, this solution is going to help someone pay these services and product on affordable price, guarantees their confidentiality. Remember what we are talking about privacy of data. So at Pharma, we guarantee you confidentiality and privacy of your data. And we not only give that, because we accompany you with advices and daily checkup on your health to hurry support you in getting healthy. So the product is a one-stop center of all kinds of medication, healthcare product, services, and information that is going to guide you in having a healthy lifestyle, in leading a healthy life on a daily basis. So currently we are operating as an online pharmacy. Currently we are delivering and helping people to access healthcare product, some personal care product, but Pharma is more of that. We want to also give people accessibility to interact with specialists. We want to help our clients to talk to different healthcare specialists that can really address their health concerns. So we are targeting a market of more than 4.2 million people in Rwanda that needs healthcare products and services on a daily basis, but also have access to internet. So in 2 years, we are targeting more than 265 people and more than 600 corporates and businesses in Rwanda. So this is not a dream. We have started doing this. We have, so far in more than 7 months that we have been operating, we have served more than 200 individuals and 5 corporates. We have more than 500 orders of different healthcare products, and we have secured different partnerships with private and with some private organizations. Next. So you might be wondering how we make money from this. So Pharma we get 20% of sales in retail. We also plan to earn from subscription. We are going to charge our customers and users 1.9 USD per month or $10 per month yearly. Imagine having all this access on this retail amount of money. I bet you all are going to be our clients. And we also charge delivery fee in Kigali. So what we are looking for today, with amazing people in the house, we wish to partner with individuals that are very passionate about health, but have various experience in IT industry, health industry. I'm talking about pharmacists, I'm talking about public health people, I'm talking about developers. We are looking to talk to you and hopefully work with you in the future. We also want to partner with some organization, starting from health-related organization to our future clients, like the organization that really think they can benefit from our services. And we are ready to talk to investors and see what we can get to make the dreams of Pharma come true and add value to the clients. So meet the team behind this good work. I myself, the managing director, we have our CEO and our chief operation officer who has various experience in public health and IT industry, mainly working with healthcare facilities. So thank you so much. You can connect with us on the call. We also have WhatsApp and our website. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Wilina Ichirezi. Despite the technical glitches, her pitch went by very seamlessly. A round of applause for her once again. Up next, I'd like to invite to the stage Rwanda Health. The presentation will be given by Babajide Oke. So a round of applause as he makes his way to the stage.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. One thing about me is, about Rwanda Health, is trying to understand the market, right? Clean, complete, and structured data. That is what is needed to have a progressive healthcare system here in Africa. And right now, a lot of countries in Africa are lacking that seriously. And I know that's part of the theme of what has been talked about, data. How do I know about this? Well, I spend a good amount of my time working in the biotech industry, studying patients' health data in correlation to what we call investigational products. And one of the highlights of my career was working on the Ebola vaccine. And as you all know, Ebola was plagued in West Africa. And getting clean data from West Africa was a problem, especially my home country, Nigeria. We didn't even get any data from there. And what are we doing at Rwanda Health? We built a solution to digitize healthcare processes for emerging markets. What are some of the problems? Well, emerging markets, right? Emerging market problems. About 85% of healthcare facilities still use paper. We have a good amount of healthcare facilities who are still, till date, in a lot of these markets. And 52% have access to quality healthcare, and 80% been uninsured. Fragmented and manual process. This is still continuing. Of course, emerging market problems. Health insurance complications. With a lot of health insurance companies, everyone has different processes. There's no uniform process to submit a claim. Poor decision making by healthcare providers and healthcare stakeholders. And this is because the process is still fragmented. And due to this, it's all a domino effect. And that's why 10% of global clinical research is conducted in sub-Saharan Africa. How are we solving this problem? We built an easy-to-use EMR that allows healthcare facilities to digitize all their processes, such as managing patient information, teleconsultation, inventory, submission of claim, and also video call your doctor. An easy to submit claim system for healthcare facilities to submit claims directly to health insurance, or to send the claims to patients. And also, because of, like I said, we're learning. One of the things we learned is we have to create a patient advantage, which is our new B2C product that we're going to go in beta in July, which we call a Rwanda Health Savings Card. And this allows patients who are mostly uninsured in this market save for healthcare spending, which still runs through our software. What is our story, right? Started this in 2019 out of frustration, trying to create structure in the African healthcare system. Held a focus group to understand the problem. And we launched in 2020 in Lagos, Nigeria, and as of 2021, we're in 3 states. We're in Lagos, Ibadan, Port Harcourt, and Abuja. And what are we doing right now? We are trying to work into the public sector. We're working on pilots in Ondo State, which is going to be starting in the 3rd quarter. We're also going to be working on teleconsultation with the Nigerian Army in the 1st quarter of 2023. And also, that's why we're here, looking at expansion opportunities here in Rwanda, and in 2024, looking at expansion into other African countries. And also, forgot to mention, we have over 40 healthcare facilities who are currently using our platform all across Nigeria. So what is our unique value proposition? We actually have another thing we're trying to do is with our unique patient portal, by connecting patients with their healthcare provider, and health insurance integration. So claims could be submitted directly from our platform to health insurance companies to vet those claims and like approve those claims and reject sometimes. And our team, we have a team of people who have worked deeply in biotech and in tech and in marketing that is going on in this company, building the amazing product that we have, and also a team of great advisors. And our healthcare savings platform that is going to be launching in July, that is going to augment our current software for healthcare facilities. What is our attraction? Like I said, over 40 healthcare facilities using our platform. More than 10,000 patients are currently stored and using our platform that they have data on it. 4 states in Nigeria, over 2 state governments that we're going to be working with, and these are some of the specialists that we have using our platform. And these are some of the amazing things that we're doing. We've also consulted with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on digitization of healthcare processes in Lagos. So this is some of our dashboard, technical stuff. But if you want to know more, we're back there and we can show you. So how do we make money? We have a one-time software licensing fee for healthcare facilities. And also, we have per item fees, such as claims, teleconsultation, visitation fees. And also, most importantly, while we're here, private-public partnership with governments. So these are some of our advisors. We have someone in this healthcare system in Nigeria who is a former commissioner of health. And some of his advisors from Novartis also, and old professor of mine. And this is our team, and that's me. And there's my other co-founders, and are going to be here hopefully in October. Thank you very much, and we're back there.
Thank you so much, Babajide. I'd like to call to the stage MedTech for them to also share with us their innovation. Nelson Igbiriki, could you kindly make your way here to the front? A round of applause as Nelson comes.
Hi everyone. So we have a booth there, and of having a couple of discussion, and Serge that works with Bridge was discussing some things with me. He mentioned that he had a close friend that just slumped because he had stroke, and that is why we exist at FOCARDIO. We believe because heart diseases takes time to manifest in that late stage of stroke, heart attack, we can be able to tackle it for preventive care and also improve the life of patients, helps hospital generate revenue. Are we good? All right. So I once had a neighbor, we call her Mama Shukudi. She was diagnosed with hypertension. She was recommended to use one of these devices that is out there. But because of her hectic schedule, being a trader, she goes to the market, she owns shops, she couldn't follow up with a prescription, follow up with a doctor, and follow up with when to send her vitals because of her hectic schedule. As a result, she died of hypertension. I know we all have had someone that has we've lost someone because of hypertension, stroke, or even they can't walk because of stroke. So we built FOCARDIO a product to solve this. But the issue with handling this, despite this a lot of devices, you're asking me why these devices? Because of this, the Apple Watch that's here works on a custom built app. This other home run works on a custom built app. So imagine you are a doctor, you have 50 patients with 50 different variants of heart diseases. It means you have to download and use 50 different apps, which is hectic, difficult, and there's no option to monetize remote monitoring. And even home run, very available in the market, but cannot support cloud functions for hospitals. It's not enabled in Africa. It means you have devices, you can't make money. So we built FOCARDIO to solve this problem, because cardiovascular disease is the largest leading cause of death globally. It kills over 18.6 million persons yearly, and in Nigeria, it's the leading cause of death. But we see an opportunity here. Over 20 million persons in Africa live with heart diseases, and there is a big market that people are not seeing currently. And what we're doing that, we see that we can be able to help hospitals generate up to $20 billion from remote monitoring and getting and using data to improve the lives of patients with heart diseases existing in the market. So FOCARDIO is simply an integrated platform for smart detection and monitoring of heart disease in clinic. How does it work? So basically what we do, we connect data from devices. It could be home run, could be iWatch, could be any device GE available in the marketplace. We connect this data through a mobile app on the patient end and send this data to a platform for clinic. And on the platform, we tailor an AI that understands the baseline. For instance, the baseline for hypertension for me is different for you and from any other person. So what we do is we tailor an AI that understands your unique, you're like your BMI, your weight, then your doctors could be able to predict. And in scenarios wherein hypertension coming into the later stage, your doctors can be able to track and know what's wrong with you. So basically, we are building to solve a $48.1 billion market that is so scattered that doctors can be able to generate revenue from this. And the goal for Cardio is to connect every heart monitoring device for doctors to generate revenue by providing care to the patient. Our business model is typically for clinics. We provide a solution direct for clinics, and they subscribe on model based on maybe 100 patients or 1,000 patients annually or monthly. They have the luxury to determine what they charge their own patients. So clinics generate revenue from providing these solutions to them. So we are in full-scale operation in 2 weeks. We're currently on a pilot with one of the largest cardiology clinics in Nigeria with over 5,000 patients. And these devices are connected, the home run devices, the Apple iWatch 4, and we're currently integrating more devices to improve the care for patients. Our competitors are there. You see their electronic health recording system. They exist, but they don't leverage on data. They don't improve the patient's lifestyle. And for us, we're bidding for one, the patients, the caregivers, and also the manufacturers, because we get feedback to them. And I have an amazing team. I'm a biomedical engineer. I've been over 8 years in the fields. I maintain, install CT scan, MRI across Nigeria and sub-Saharan Africa. I have a team of clinical researchers that have worked with the WHO, other health facilities, and also have a trained and seasoned software engineer. The goal for us is simple. We want to empower the leveraging of data to improve patient outcome. Let's lead a world of data-driven insights. And there's a popular saying we have at HealthTech Africa: every heart has a rhythm. Is yours healthy? My heart beats for cardio. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nelson. Another round of applause for Nelson, please. Up next, I'd like to invite HelloMed, and kindly a round of applause as Alois Rukundo makes his way to the stage.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a Friday. All right, my name is Alois Lukundo. I'm a Rwandan, and I'm the founder of HelloMed. So, if you've been to the hospital in Rwanda, this is a typical experience. A lot of people, a lot of mothers, their children, a lot of people, congested hospitals. But according to the Ministry of Health, 40% of these causing this congestion actually are unnecessary visits. These people shouldn't be there because their conditions are too easy to need a hospital facility. They're going for change of medications, you know, a few things, cough, flu, things like that. It creates an average of 6 to 9 hours wait. A few weeks ago, I was taking my wife for just basic pregnancy test. We were at the hospital at 6. We left at 3. At 3. Just basic pregnancy test. 85%, the beauty, I'm presenting a problem, but equally an opportunity. The beauty of this is that 85% of these people are actually medically insured. So even if you you give them health care, they will still be using their insurance. So they shouldn't actually be using extra cost for transport, for food, while traveling to hospitals. So this is what we've designed. We've designed a teleconsultation platform that can do consultation with your phone, your app, your computer. You can just get a consultation from the basic seat in your home. But then what's it that we are giving that other people have not tried to give, at least for now? You see, as physician will tell you, there is 70% chances of diagnosing the right disease once they have a face-to-face interaction with a patient. This is data from physicians. unlike other teleconsulting who are just consulting from the phone, the face-to-face doctor-patient relationship is very key in healthcare. So I understand we should develop these innovations, but then we can't take away the beauty of doctor-patient relationship. This is the platform. It's up and running. Our business model is we're charging a consultation fee of $5. That's 5,000 Rwandan francs. This is actually set by Minister of Health. This is a tariff by Minister of Health. The beauty of this is that if you have your medical insurance, you are likely to pay 10% of this. The rest goes to your insurance. So it doesn't really cost you that much. This is our projection. So a year, 28,800 consultation, total revenue of 144,000 in year one. The years goes, as you can see, year one, year two, year three. So go-to-market strategy. Yesterday we talked about designing solutions that are locally tailored. I know those, you've had design thinking, but people say that, but in actual sense, they go in their offices, they design stuff anyway. But we did opposite. We've been consulting communities. Here is me and my team doing all community activities, engaging, sitting down with these mothers who are lining up on hospitals to actually design something they would actually use. So the market, this is, for me, they talk about this market, general Africa, the world. But for me, the demographic I care about is this one. Because all the people who are giving us data, they're expecting the demographic. When you're talking about sustainability, you're talking about adaptability. You cannot take away the fact of demographics. Rwanda and Africa has the youngest population. That's a fact. And they're easy to adopt. When you look at a current in Rwanda, 17.4 people living in urban rurals, in urban setting. The projection of Rwanda, 2040, they expect to hit 70%. Yesterday we were talking about also smart cities. So if you're talking about smart cities, you're talking about access to stuff, then these numbers should matter to you. This 93% of Rwandans are below 50 years of age. That's an adopting demographic. My mom will not consult this. He's not interested in this video. He wants to see a doctor and touch his body. Say, doctor, yamfasheho na achize. That's all she knows. But me, I don't want to be at the hospital. I want to use my gadget. And people of my generation and going, So these numbers should be average GDP growth. Because GDP growth, the economic growth goes with adoption, goes with welfare. People money in their pocket. So if the average growth of Rwanda is averaging 7%, chances are we have 7% increase in incomes per Rwandan. So that number should also matter if you're talking about sustainability and you're talking about adaptability and, So this is how we analyze our competition. But then I want to emphasize this. In healthcare, there's not really that competition. Everyone needs that. Though we stick to that, so and so is my competitor. How many hospitals do we have here in Kigali? But they're always full. So would you stop opening a hospital because someone is there operating? So in healthcare, it's a responsibility of everyone participating to make sure that people get the service they need and they get it better. So for me, as much as this is shown how I do better compared to my competitors, I really don't consider them as competitors. We are all serving a common interest. This is our financial projection. Pretty much cost of, we are averaging 80 patients per day with our starting 2 doctors, average 40 patients per each doctor. The numbers are clear. If you need more, we can sit and discuss the numbers. But this is what also is key over there. We expect to make an average revenue of $12,000 US, at least in our first year. investment, so we are looking for investment of 200,000 pre-seed. I have to tell you, this idea, we haven't really tested that. We've secured a license. By the way, securing an operating license in healthcare in Rwanda, it's a big deal. I want you to try that. I'm telling you, it's a big deal. So we are really proud of what we've achieved. So part is to develop the product further, team, to hire more team and develop, training and, all those things. Marketing, of course, but for us, our marketing strategy is community outreach. It's okay to develop a fancy stuff, but for us, we believe engaging community really means a lot. So this is my team. Myself, Dr. Ngulunziza Emmanuel is an experienced doctor headed some of the referral hospitals in Rwanda. Dr. Ishimwe Ndaishimye is also experienced in digital consultation. Ineza, a accounting and finance staff, and our nurse, Joyeuse. This is a beautiful team that is actually doing these things possible. Thank you. And it's a Friday, relax, people.
Thank you so much, Lois. And thanks for reminding us it's a Friday. And tomorrow we will have an amazing third day here at the HealthTech Africa Summit. Can I get a shout if you're coming? That is not convincing. That is not convincing. Tomorrow I hope to see you all here today for day 3. I'd like to invite Odans Nakeshimana from Incitive to also come and share with us their pitch today.
Hello everyone, my name is Odas and I'm the founder of Incitive, a Rwandan startup whose mission is to democratize medical imaging diagnostics via teleradiology and AI. I founded Incitive really in order to tackle the problem of scarcity of radiologists in Rwanda. So if you or your friend has taken a medical imaging exam, maybe a CT scan exam or X-ray, you're probably familiar with medical imaging. And really in Rwanda, we have about, in 2019 when I started Incitive, we had about 1 radiologist per million of the population. And when you look at developed countries like in Europe, you see that really they have about 100 radiologists per million of the population. And really, this as a number doesn't mean that much, but really, this translates to a lot of inefficiencies, especially for hospitals, where they are usually overcrowded with patients who are hospitalized. They can't get treated because they are waiting for diagnosis from a radiologist. And for patients, of course, this is really expensive because in order to find a hospital that is going to give you a quick diagnosis, you really have to travel for a very long distance. And most of the time, you don't just pay with money. Sometimes, as you wait for a week to actually get a diagnosis, sometimes you have to pay with your life. So Incitive is really providing a reliable and efficient teleradiology service for hospitals. Incitive removes the requirement for a hospital to have a radiologist by having an online platform and having a radiologist team that can actually take in medical images from different hospitals and give the diagnosis to hospitals. And as a result, hospitals actually don't have to hire radiologists in order to provide medical imaging services. And of course, for patients, this makes it easy by providing instant diagnosis because you could be in Musanze and you could get a diagnosis from a radiologist who is in Kigali. So we really want to shorten the time that it takes to get a diagnosis to a few hours. And the average for a lot of remote hospitals goes from 3 days to even 2 weeks. So our solution is what we call the Incitive Diagnostics platform, which is a teleradiology platform that enables remote radiology services. And it has the features that are needed in order to provide these services, such as the clinical workflow management, the medical viewer, radiology reporting capabilities. And we also have modules of our platform that allow our system to communicate with other solutions that different hospitals use. So we've added additional capabilities to our platform in order by leveraging AI and machine learning in order to increase capabilities of radiologists, especially because today a radiologist has to go through thousands of images. And we're testing different use cases, especially focusing on anomaly detection and COVID-19 stratification in order to actually see whether we could improve the productivity of radiologists by enabling them to diagnose patients faster and actually serve more patients in a very short amount of time. So our platform is built for privacy, for compliance with privacy regulations. And really, in order to do this, we had to design a system that is flexible in terms of where it can be deployed. We have a version of our system that already runs in the local data center here in Rwanda that we've used in a lot of the work that we've done in Rwanda. And we also have a version of our system that runs on Amazon in the US and Europe. And that has really allowed us to take in data that we've used for research while respecting data localization regulations. So our business and revenue model is hybrid in the sense that at first we want to provide diagnostics as a service to hospitals, which means that hospitals are going to pay for for patients that are actually going to be diagnosed by through our platform by our radiologist. And as a result, we actually want to remove the software procurement process, because hospitals today have to first buy the system and then they have to hire radiologists. And for bigger customers such as government as well as large independent hospitals, we want to have a licensing model that will actually allow them to lease our system and deploy them on their premises or in different data centers that they have access to. For our marketing strategy, we started by building an MVP with the core capabilities that are needed in order to provide teleradiology services. And we also have a team of radiologists and engineers that both work on the product development, but would also be supporting the hospitals that we would be providing our service to. And of course, our MVP is also compliant, and I'll be talking about what we've done in order to get the data protection licenses. For customer acquisition and marketing strategy, we're looking at targeting advertising. We want to target hospitals and directors at hospitals, different decision makers online, but also we've been doing different site visits to different hospitals around the country. And we've been attending different conferences talking about Incitive, which is where you are today. And also for customers that are really interested, we provide demos as well as free trials that they can use to first use our system, work with us for free before they make a purchase commitment. In terms of the progress that we've made and the traction that we've had so far, like I said, we've developed and tested our MVP. We already have letters of intent from different private hospitals as well as from directors of some public hospitals. And we've already filed for regulatory approval, starting with the Data Protection Office, which requires anybody handling personal data to actually get the approval. And that is a first step that we're taking before we get the clinical approval that will actually allow us to provide the clinical services to hospitals. And we also have, we already have demand from Nigeria and Ghana, especially that we think is going to be interesting once we get the approvals. So in addition to teleradiology, we have different partnerships and collaboration, both with academic institutions and clinical institutions. We've worked with Harvard Medical School in a project of applying machine learning on diagnosing post-cesarean surgical site infections in rural Rwanda. This is a project that has already impacted more than 1,000 patients in one of the public hospitals in Rwanda. And we've also, under the management of King Faisal and partnership with one of their radiologists, we've worked on a study on quantifying productivity gains from using AI in detecting COVID-19 from chest X-ray. And through this study, we actually annotated over 6,000 images with our system, and we developed as well as deployed an algorithm that has been proven to be more than 93% accurate. For our competitive analysis, we have different competitors ranging from different teleradiology providers that are already mostly in the East African market. as well as independent or hired radiologists who work at hospitals. And we believe that our competitive edge is really on the turnaround because we are able to not have to be at the hospital. We can respond by diagnosing patients faster. On quality, because our radiologists are trained and board certified, and this removed a lot of the guesswork that's sometimes happened when diagnosing patients because there is nobody to diagnose the patients. And because of having advanced functionality that is actually able to accommodate capacity to support data from different hospitals, we believe that we can make more impact because our technology enables that. So our team is diversified. We have half of our team is medical, is made of radiologists, and half of our team is made of engineers. And this is really one of our strengths because we've collaborated from both designing and implementing the project. And this is also part of our advantage because as we provide our service to the customers, we're going to have people who understand the clinical work as well as the technology work. And when we look at our customer, we hope that for a medium-sized hospital, we can keep them our customer for about 5 years and maybe get about 20 to 25 patients per day diagnosed through our system from that hospital. And that gives us a lifetime value to customer acquisition ratio of 8.1, which is really high. That shows that our business is really profitable. And by looking at our financial projections, we believe that once we start operating, we can actually reach the break-even point within the first 2 years of operations as a result of the profitability of our business. And I also like to add that we also are raising money, and we first want to be able to fund different pre-operation expenses that we're going to incur as we actually wait to get approved through the pending applications that we have. And we believe that, say, for a scenario where it takes us 3 years to actually get some of these approvals, we are raising $1.5 million, which would allow us both to fund the regulatory and legal fees, as well as keep working on product iterations, as well as before we reach commercialization, we want to keep validating different capabilities of our system via clinical trials. And once we start operating, as I said, it's going to take about 2 years to reach the break-even point. We're going to need about $2 million to fund 2 years. And really, by looking at our 3-year plan, once we get approved, our year 1 focus is going to be focused on setting up the initial operations in Rwanda. And in year 2, we're going to be looking at growth in Rwanda by really reaching every hospital that needs us in Rwanda, and also looking at regional expansion. And like I said, we've already gotten demand from places like West Africa. And in year 3, we want to also focus on what we can do to really, really scale this innovation in Africa. And like I said, the total investment needed by combining the pre-op and post-op expenses is about $3.5 million. And thank you so much. In addition to looking for investment, we're also looking for partnerships. We're open to partner with academic and clinical institutions because there is a lot. We believe that we can create a lot of value and test different solutions in the meantime as the regulatory environment catches up and actually allows us to do this at scale. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Odas. Another round of applause for all the amazing startups who have pitched today. Yesterday, the minister mentioned that Africa needs to create solutions for some of its pressing challenges. And hearing some of the solutions, the pitches from today as well as from yesterday, it's definitely very promising. I mean, the future is in safe hands. Do we all agree? Guys, do we all agree that Africa has a bright future? Okay, perfect. So we're going to get into our next panel discussion. And artificial technology, AI technology, promises to change the way health and healthcare is actually being given. Our next panel will be dissecting more on this. The discussion will be on how artificial intelligence is powering efficiency in the public health systems. I want you to help me welcome our amazing panelists who will be making their way to the stage. At first, I'd like to start with Marlene Momokunde, the Kigali Project Coordinator, CT Cancer Challenge. Marlene, a round of applause as she makes her way to the stage. I'd also like to call Yvonne Chiza Kamili, Medical Imaging Annotator at HealthTech Africa. You're welcome, Yvonne. A round of applause as she makes her way, guys. We also have Matt Amaze. He is the instructional technologist and assistant professor at the University of Global Health Equity. A round of applause as he makes the way. We also have Odans Nakeshimana, founder of Incitive. He's just presented one of the amazing solutions that he has for us. A round of applause as he also makes his way to the stage. And our moderator is the amazing Sharon Batamuriza. She is a Senior Programs Manager, HealthTech Hub Africa. A round of applause as Sharon makes her way to the stage. Sharon, it's all yours.
Hello everybody. Can everyone hear me? But you guys are sleeping. Can everyone hear me? This is our last panel, so we have to be a bit upbeat before we eat. So welcome everybody. It's good to have everybody else here on our panel. Our discussion for the panel today is going to be on artificial intelligence powering efficiency in public health system, which is an interesting topic to have. I'll start with introducing myself. As Fiona mentioned, I'm Sharon Watamuliza, and I'm the Senior Program Manager for the HealthTech Hub. And before I proceed, I will let first our panelists introduce themselves.
Thank you very much. My name is Matthew Ames. I'm an instructional technologist and assistant professor at the University of Global Health Equity. We have our campus in Butaro. It's in the northern part of Rwanda. It's about 2.5 hours from here. I've been here for 2.5 years now. I was brought in as a e-learning specialist just a few months before the pandemic hit. So, once that happened, I got pretty busy with the courses there. But it's a real pleasure to be here. I've walked past this facility dozens of times. My barber is down off of the traffic-free street there. So it's really great to finally see this facility. It's beautiful.
Thank you. My name is Odas, and I'm founder of Incitive. I have mostly the background in technology. I'm a computer scientist and economist by training, and really happy to be here and discuss about AI and public health. So when I started Incitive, I was studying one of my economics class, studying about the challenges of developing countries, and we have to figure it out. We have to fix healthcare, and I'm happy to be here and to chat with all of you.
Hello, thank you. My name is Yvonne Keza. I'm a medical imaging specialist by profession. I work for an institute called IRCAD, which is a research institute against digestive cancers. We have different centers around the world, the headquarters in France, in a city called Strasbourg. And the Center for Africa is based here in Kigali. And we do a lot of developing of solutions and training surgeons to use this new innovative AI and robotic technology. And I'm very happy to be on this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Marlene Momokunde. I'm the Kigali Project Coordinator at City Cancer Challenge. City Cancer Challenge is, we work with cities around the world as they work to provide equitable and quality cancer care. Our model is mainly on providing capacity building, but also any technical support as they develop their cancer system. But we really, our first approach is really to conduct a needs assessment And our solutions are based on the needs assessment of each city we are in. And part of that, of course, it includes digitization, which is what we have already in Kigali, a project we're implementing with Rwanda Biomedical Center, and perhaps I'll have an opportunity to speak more about that. But I'm happy to be here. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Can everyone hear us? Oh, perfect. So before we even proceed, it would be nice to first get the definition. So what is AI? Does anyone want to jump in and explain to everybody what is AI? And maybe how it applies to your work, because I would assume it can have the same definition, but how it's applied within different functions can be different, right? So what is AI? Anyone can jump in. Maureen, maybe we can start with you.
Oh, definitely was waiting for Das to chip in. So I would say, for me, AI is I don't know, a step further to digital application, where you use data to kind of identify patterns or anticipate any like a medical need, or it's not even being applied in the health system only. We know AI is being applied in across different sectors, but to me it's really a step further to digital, to the normal application or digital applications we know, in my simple terms.
Thank you. Odas, do you have any addition to that? What is artificial intelligence? Yeah, it's a work.
So thanks, Sharon. So don't quote me on this, but so I think of AI as really broadly it's more of a set of tools, sort of automated tools that could eventually make decisions. So if you, some of us have technology background, if you, the way computer science or technology has evolved is that there is usually instructions on how something has to be done, how decisions are made, and unfortunately, like you said, when you look at data, there are patterns, and really we have there are a lot of experts who also make decisions based on data. Unfortunately, we are in a place where computers or tools can actually be taught how to look at data and make decisions. And those decisions could take different forms. It could be a yes/no decision or a recommendation. And a lot of us have certainly used AI. If you've used Gmail, for example, it's in the autocomplete or autocorrect, you've used AI. As far as it applies in healthcare, I look at AI as a set of tools that could make decisions or could make recommendations. They don't have to make those decisions alone or by themselves. In fact, AI, like people could use or sometimes need human input, in fact, most of the time. And really, my definition is more of a tool that could make some decision, and that decision could be useful depending on the use case. Thank you.
Thanks. So Yvonne, I have a question for you. How can you ensure that the hype in healthcare, AI, result in concrete and useful application in grassroots level healthcare delivery?
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. As coming from the healthcare background, the first point is to make sure that the healthcare profession understands that AI does not replace them, is not coming to replace them. Instead, it's to complement healthcare professions. It's to reduce the workload, it's to reduce the waiting time for patients, clients, as they said. So that's the primary is for the healthcare to understand. And the second is to make sure that the healthcare profession participates in clinical trials, to make sure that those AI application models are validated, externally validated and evaluated to make sure that they will perform as they're intended to do. And I think that will help to confirm the hype. And also to ensure that the technical company work with the healthcare providers in order to implement those applications in a clinical setting, and make sure that they fulfill the need in the grassroots. So the AI has to be able to satisfy the 3 key areas to me, and that's the clinical need. It has to be able to answer to that, the technical feasibility, and the business aspect of it. And all that is made possible by both the technology companies working with the healthcare providers and industry leaders in order to make them possible in a clinical setting. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else have an addition to that, to the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. You know, in the past year and a half or so, I've been doing just a ton of research on digital health, you know, under which AI is a kind of a subset of that larger category. And I think, you know, most of the or really all the startups that have been here today are part of that digital health subset, you know. And so, but from what I've seen, there's just an incredible lack of curriculum for medical school students with regards to digital health. I mean, there's some degree programs here and there, but for the large part, you just don't see it. So you have, you know, a lot of medical school students who are going through school without a real understanding of these technologies that are probably going to end up, you know, changing their careers in big ways as, you know, this technology evolves and we figure out more ways to use it to solve these problems. And so, you know, I think that, you know, at least a part of that is going to be that there's going to have to be a lot more education of our medical school students moving forward so that, you know, they're prepared for these changes. You know, I'm an e-learning person at the University of Global Health Equity, and we just in the past month released a digital health and leadership course that we worked on with Stanford University and the University of Thies in Senegal and the World Bank and Tech Change. And so, you know, and so there is a growing need and demand for that. And you know, these courses were mostly focused on how are these people involved in leadership positions handling, you know, decisions about how do we implement AI, like, you know, in sort of generally across institutions and things like that. So, you know, I think you know, a part of the answer to that question is at least that we need to make sure that, you know, our medical schools are also as aware of all these things that you all are talking about today, you know, as you are. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. And then one of the thing that I know most people are always worried about, and you tackled a bit on it, of people being scared of their jobs being taken away, right? Given that artificial intelligence is actually a very significant tool when it comes to building systems where you don't necessarily need, for example, a lot of human power, but also you can use the history to be able to diagnose certain diseases, for example. How do you strike a balance for even health, not even but like healthcare workers, to know that them learning about machine learning or use of technology is not necessarily a threat to their jobs? Anyone can jump in.
No,
Yeah.
so I think as Odas presented in his very good presentation area, I think in most of our countries in the continent, that shouldn't be an issue, because we have a high issue in terms of, you know, the number even of radiologists or pathologists, the number of specialists that are serving, and there's always those long queues that have been mentioned. So really, AIs will definitely not, you know, take their jobs. Rather, it will be supporting them and helping them to also improve their skills, because I believe you can also use AI to kind of improve your interpretation skills. Let's say, for example, a pathologist to kind of compare your ability compared to what an AI is giving you, but also, improving time, improving the quality of what you are giving, and that will highly influence overall the service delivery that will be provided. So it will contribute in really strengthening the health system, especially on the volume of the like resources, the HR, but definitely not take their jobs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's working.
Thank you. What I can add to that is, as even Odas mentioned earlier, there's very few specialists, especially in radiology area, there's very few specialist clinicians in general, and most of them are based here in Kigali. So the best way that AI can improve the service is the specialist using AI tools to assist doctors in remote area. An example I could give is at IRCAD, we developed a solution that is installed in an ultrasound machine. Ultrasound machine is a very readily available equipment. It's cheap, it's easy to use, and it's not risky to a patient compared to other medical imaging equipments. So, but it requires a skilled person to know how to scan and know how to use it. So that solution that was developed by IRCAD can quickly and accurately measure the fetal biometry. That's measuring the fetal head circumference, abdominal circumference, and femur length. That helps to determine whether the baby is growing okay or there's no complications. So with that solution in a low-cost ultrasound machine, it can be used in remote areas, in district hospitals where you then don't need a skilled person. Most of the time you don't have radiologists, gynecologists, sonographers. So any healthcare profession such as a nurse or a midwife can use just sweep through with the ultrasound machine, and the AI solution will be able to tell them there is complications, the baby is not growing okay. So it will help them to then refer those clients to see specialists, and in turn reduce maternal fetal death rate, or at least reduce pregnancy complications in those areas. Thank you.
Yes, I've been asked this question a lot, and I think maybe this comes to your point on do people really understand what AI is or what it's used for? So the default perception is that this is the scary robot that is going to come and do everything. But really that's not the case. AI also has its limitations, and there is no clear path to removing the human in the loop, really, in terms of how the AI decision is made. Right now, to train a radiologist, they first become a general doctor, and they need specialization. And you can do that with AI. There's a lot of the human nuance and the specifics that are not even easy to capture in the data that you would use to train AI. So I think it's very important, especially to understand the potential and also the limitations of AI, and really see that the appropriate use of AI is maybe in doing the screening or the first pass, if you will, and maybe doing the work that the expert shouldn't be doing, or really that the work that they don't want to do. So it's likely that, so this is interesting because I've actually worked with Keza. I was 2 years ago, and I was looking and reaching out to different people, and from the tools that we've been working on, we've been trying to measure how much time is a radiologist spending on an image with AI and without AI. And what we've seen is that without AI, a radiologist who has used AI actually gets better at their job even without the tool. So it's been very interesting to see that AI could also actually participate in helping the people who are using it actually build more expertise and more precision. So the AI still has its own limitations, and really I wouldn't be worried about AI taking all the jobs. I'm also an engineer, and there is AI there too. So I'm not afraid that it's going to take my job, because sometimes in the thinking or in the intuition, it has to be done good. Otherwise, I'm not afraid about my job as an engineer. And there might be more AI in software engineering than medicine. So.
And I think that's a good segue in another question that I had, which is how will maybe digitization of healthcare impact the doctor-patient relationship? Because there is something about going to the doctor. I mean, of course, it doesn't affect it, but in human perception, there's this understanding that when things are more automated, there's less time to spend with a doctor. And I'm wondering what you guys think about that. Like, what could digitization in general, not necessarily AI specifically, could impact patient and doctor relationship, or healthcare, health worker relationship rather, sorry. Matt, do you want to touch on that? Yeah.
I think with technology in general, there are just a lot of possibilities, of course. You don't really know what's going to happen in some ways, but I think at least, for example, one of the things that could happen, I think, is that patients will have more control over, say, preliminary diagnoses and things like that, so that they'll be able to go into some AI systems and plug in some of their symptoms and get some feedback that of a relative accuracy, so that they might be able to determine the status of their health situation that way, so that that some of those initial phases where maybe the patients won't need a doctor eventually. And I think some of those systems have already been shown to have a high degree of accuracy too, with as long as the information that's fed into them is correct. But to sort of get back to what has been discussed a little bit already in terms of is this going to be taking away from jobs of healthcare practitioners? I think at least a big part of AI is it's going to just free up time to give I think doctors and I think about at least one of the AI, it's more of, I think it's more of a machine learning tool, but we use about Turnitin, like plagiarism tools. Those are tasks that our professors just, you don't have time to read all these papers, look for plagiarism. And so now there are tools that do that. It frees up the time so that they can, concentrate on teaching the students. And I think, AI in healthcare can do similar things where it can free up the time for the doctors so that they can focus on the patients and things like that.
Yes, can you hear me?
You can use that one.
Okay, sorry for that. Yes, so also focusing particularly on AIs, not only on digitization. I think AIs can also, as we spoke about, them being able to identify patterns in the patient-specialist relationship. They could also identify patterns that would lead to dropouts, especially in the cancer care space. If you know, like the cancer care, especially in Rwanda now, or even in many countries, cancer care is very fragmented. You'll find that a patient will need to travel to different institutions to get different modality of service. They'll go to one hospital for diagnosis, another one for staging, another one for treatment, and they'll be moving all around. So AIs could really support in that way to kind of identify those patterns that would support the patients to come on their appointments, to support even the healthcare system to be ready in terms of care coordination. which is like one of the projects we're implementing at the moment around care coordination. And we are using a digital application that is easing communication among the different healthcare specialists. And you'll find that, for example, what used to happen, a patient will go, let's say, to Butaro, and we know how far Butaro is, if people know. It's like 3 hours from Kigali. And when they get there, for example, they forgot, you know, their CT scan or something, and then they'll need to go back. And probably they're not even from Kigali, they're from Gatiro or something. So what we are doing at the moment, excuse me, is we've deployed navigators or nurses who are in those institutions, who are supporting the patients, really advocating for them, reminding them, and they have an application that can remind them about the upcoming appointments, to also do around, you know, dropouts. You know, if you undergo all those consequences where you are already suffering, we know how cancer is a big burden, but if again you also need to be, you know, going all around, a lot of those patients will not come back. They'll be like, yeah, I just won't go back. And so if you have someone who is reminding you because they've been supported with a digital application, that is a big win. But also the application is helping them to communicate amongst themselves, so that if, for example, I am referring a patient at Kanombe or King Faisal, you know, when the patient gets there, there's someone who already knows everything about them, and there's no duplication of exams, or, you know, because that is some instances what would happen. You find that an exam has already been taken at Seha Shuika, but King Faisal is going to take it once more. Yeah, so really, so there's really a lot of potential for AIs, but also digitization in improving that patient and specialist relationship, and all to really improve the outcome of the patients.
Yeah, and you tap on a very interesting topic, like this increase, like the continuation of information, like transfer of information from one hospital to another, which brings us to another topic of adaptation, which I think is the biggest challenge when it comes to our healthcare system. So you might find the systems are there, for example, where, you know, when it comes to artificial intelligence, for example, it's like you have to kind of feed information constantly for the machine to learn and understand the behavior, to create certain models to diagnose or perform other activities. But then we have an issue with, you know, I don't think it's a resistant, but there's a huge challenge with adaptation. As you said, you go to one hospital, they ask you for the same results. You go to the other one, they ask you the same question. And sometimes within the same hospital, you go to the reception, they ask you the same questions. You go to the doctor, they ask you the same question. So I'm wondering, as people who are actually practicing with the artificial intelligence, how are you, what type of maybe plans or strategies are you using to tackle the issue of adaptation? Like how actually people are adapting to using artificial intelligence or the digitization tools to be used to, yeah. Maybe we start with an academic, Matt.
Yeah, you know, at the University of Global Health Equity, we use a learning management system called Canvas. I don't know who's familiar with that one, but and you know, there are applications that are being built. We don't use them yet. We've looked into them some, that sort of track student success within courses and compare them to the outcomes of the course. And what these things do, it will just sort of nudge the student. The app is called Nudge, and it's just the idea that if you have students that are underperforming, maybe not logging into classes often enough, have late assignments, that they're sort of automatically sent, information that gets them to sort of get back on track and get ahead, and so that, you know, it targets at-risk students, but not, you know, a student who's making an A+. And so, you know, the idea is that these systems can learn to sort of recognize and target students who aren't doing well. I'm sure that's no one in this room. you know. And I've also heard about this other solution where the student within the course is an AI, and so that this AI student in this online course, you know, is sort of like a perfect motivated student, you know, and so that instead of the instructor, you know, having to motivate the students, you have this sort of peer-to-peer motivational connection that keeps the students on track.
Yeah, it does. Because it's one thing building, you know, technology. It's another thing actually people adapting to the technology, right? And as people who are working within the HealthTech Hub, for example, and people are building these technologies, you don't want people to be building solutions and then later on the adaptation actually takes longer than the building of the solution itself.
Yeah, and to add to this, really, the adaptation is one of the big challenges, really, especially in deploying a more advanced technology. I think within our countries that there are two challenges, because the digitization itself is a problem, and then there is more of advancing the care that we want to give. So when we started with Incitive, we were really trying to...
You guys can hear us properly?
Can you hear me?
Yeah?
Okay. Yeah, so we started by really actually trying to build just AI, and I pitched about a teleradiology platform, but what we really realized was that yes, AI needs data, and you know, you could use open source data, etc. But also, AI needs an environment to run. Like, in order to create value, you're going to still need a digital tool that can actually accommodate the capabilities that you are trying to provide. And the problem is that with every potential client or customer, you realize that they are not digital yet. So in order to really provide these solutions and even have them benefit people, you have to solve the digitization problem first, because a lot of the solutions need basic technical infrastructure to run, and we don't have that infrastructure. So there is really a hard limit on how much you can go in terms, how far you can go in terms of even where you can deploy a solution, because for us what we ended up doing was to actually say, yes, like a lot of, we don't even understand even the tools that are there. Each one has its own specification. So we had to build a tool first that actually solves the infrastructure problem, and also, as you design for AI, actually make it flexible enough to accommodate the things that you haven't even added yet. And I think that's really going to be a challenge, because there's a lot, you know, the AI market is also growing. There's a lot of solutions still has assumptions. You need some internet bandwidth. You need this other platform that costs a fraction of $2 million. So that's one of the challenges, really. And we have to be aware of what the limitations are and really think about how are we going to deploy these things, and what does it take to, from building an algorithm in the cloud to actually having that benefit the patient. And one of the partners that we've worked with, we started by building something on the server. It works. We proved that it actually has high accuracy. But you know, it's not going to work in a place where people have to actually buy data to benefit from that product. So there is a lot of intention or motivation to, for example, make these tools work with the simple mobile devices that everybody uses. Even a lot of people don't. There's a lot of people who don't have smartphones. So sometimes you kind of have to really narrow it down and still make sure that you are providing the value, and really understand the infrastructure limitation, which is like a barrier that is between what a lot of us want to provide and actually how people are going to benefit from it.
I agree. Yvonne, do you have anything to add there?
Yes, thank you. So I think the best way that we can integrate the AI into the healthcare environment is adopting the interdisciplinary approach. At IRCAD, we work with a team of different professions. So we start with clinicians and surgeons. They actually come up with ideas and areas where AI can benefit them. They provide the data. We have medical annotators who then analyze and annotate those data, identify pathologies, anatomical structures, and that information is then used by engineering team to create solutions, AI solution models. We then work with manufacturing companies, medical manufacturing companies, medical devices that allow us to install those applications into the application, into medical models and medical equipments. We then have to go back to the clinical settings to test those models and validate them and conduct clinical trials. So I think if we were able to do that here, to adopt a multidisciplinary approach, it would really help to make sure that those AI are actually benefiting and implemented into the healthcare systems here.
Great. Maureen, you have anything to add there? No?
Not much. I guess just to emphasize, you know, that it's involving the end users, and that's something that was recurrent in the discussion here. That you don't go and sit somewhere because you're an engineer and you come up with a solution.
Right.
You first sit with the person who's going to use it and understand what are their needs. So which is what we've been doing. For example, in one of the city we're implementing in Ghana, in Kumasi, we developed, because you know he did mention something about data, because another issue with AI is that sometimes the data is available, but it's not structured. You know, like for example, if you speak about in the cancer care again, in diagnostics, biopsy results, each institution will have its own way of reporting biopsy results. And if you want to fit that data to an AI, you will need to kind of structure or standardize the way the data is being reported. So that's one of the work we've been doing in Ghana, where we are structuring or standardizing the reporting system in the pathology departments. And what we've done is to actually involve the actual users, the pathologists and the radiologists, to sit with the engineers, and you know, they show them different templates and they get to choose which one works for best for them, which is what I hear at ECA they're also doing. So really it's to involve them at the start, you know, not just giving them you know, a final product when you haven't really involved them.
Right, right. No, I think you sum it up well. I think when you look at, as you're saying, knowing your limitation when it comes to the infrastructure, and I think when it comes to a lot of maybe digitization, those are things that people have to think about. What's your infrastructure that you have? And it's not about collecting data for the sake of just treating a patient, but also how do you structure that data to actually be used for that patient going forward. To be honest, I'm tired of going to doctors. Every step you, as you enter into the hospital, they ask you the similar questions going forward. So if there is some solutions in a way, and it's good that we have, you know, people here at the hub who are doing such type of work based on the experience they've had within the healthcare system, and having all of you here who are also doing most of the work to digitize most of these health services. So that brings us to our audience. I don't know if anyone has any questions for our panelists. Oh, great. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is Augustine Chiza from the AE Trade Group. So my first concern will be that I'm not happy that there is no one in the government sitting there. Because my issue will go with with Professor. You know, we are designing in a world which is digital right now, but with the education system which is tradition. So it means we are finding the milk in a calf, so which is very bad. You know, we are designing a health system with the AI and other digital technologies, but going back to our curriculums, we are in the 1960s. So it means if we were to catch up with the world today, we would start from there, designing the doctors, the nurses, and everyone the health sector with the up-to-date information. So it means, what does it mean? It means we are giving data to someone who even not know how the Excel work. You give someone the data in the AI collected from different patients, so you want that person to interpret it using the Microsoft Excel and other complex issues, but he don't even understand the basics of the Microsoft Excel. So which means we have the system, the health system, which is good, but with the people who's not equitable with the information which is up to date. So it means professor and other people in this field, we may come up with the ideas that challenge the government in putting in place the curriculum, which is digitally equipping a student. Let's say from high school, we have students who are in sciences who are designed to go in these medical schools, but are they even career guided? So as simple as that, that's a small thing. Are they career guided so that when they go to this health, let's say medicine, are they equitable with something that will push them forward? So this is always a challenge. As we were building our learning center, we were having the AE Trade Learning Center, we're having the same issue. So we are building information that will be giving people information in their career. But what happened in their education? So you are giving someone information which is at work, but what happened in their education, it was totally wrong. It means you are building two different people in one person. So I think we should challenge this, and I will recommend this to the people in the panel to always think about that. Thank you.
And it goes back to our point of adaptation, right? Because the issue with adaptation is having something that you are unfamiliar with being brought to you. So it takes time for you to accustom to the new system while you're used to an old one, which we kind of looked into. But I don't know if you, was it a question or is it a comment? Cool. Oh, great.
Thank you. My name is Thomas River from Neutronic Systems, and I want to ask some questions on the technical level in terms of AI and the level of infrastructure, because we are actually technically involved in the field in terms of an ecosystem enabler. And as we're starting, when you look at AI itself, first of all, I would like to ask the professor, because there's a balance that is needed in terms of innovation and the abuse of technology. You know, as humans, we always have a lot of potential to be the best at self-sabotage, because every time there's a new technology, there's going to be people who are willing to go out of their way to abuse it. So it could be on the consumer level or on the provider level. So how do you approach that when you're trying? So how do you approach that when trying to build for healthcare? Because then you're dealing with people's lives, and there's lives that are at stake. So which takes me to my next question that also somehow involves that, because when it comes to solutions like this, there's also an aspect of bureaucracy and regulations, where in the tech industry it's ever evolving, but the regulations and the bureaucracies, they're always playing catch up. In countries and governments, you always have technology is always outpacing the nature of regulations and rules, which sometimes hinders innovations. For example, this HealthTech Hub Africa might have a lot of solutions and innovations, but the laws and regulations that monitor and moderate the tech sector, they are probably a few decades old, which don't apply to modern technology. And modern technology never waits. It's always moving forward. And another one is in terms of optimization, and also at the same time with training the models. It's probably at the fellow in the middle over there, because when he talked about infrastructure and the way it's like more like self-limitations. Yeah. And maybe you should look at the partnerships, because for example, what we do, we make access to technologies that are available in the field of high performance computing and accelerated computing for people who need to do things like computational fluid dynamics, artificial intelligence models training, and from the people that provide those technologies to make them available to the sectors that need to leverage those technologies, because there's a lot of potential, but when you have technological constraints, you have to look at that first, because it's an infrastructure aspect. Thank you.
Hello? Oh, great. We really need support on this mic thing. But anyways, so I think going back to your question, I think one of the just to summarize it, you are trying to understand how, I think if you're looking at the positive point of view, is like how, based on all the all of you, with the exception of maybe of the professor, is how have you approached the government as you are deploying some of the technology and the AI that you're doing? Because sometimes we deal with challenges, but it's also good to hear how other people approach those challenges on partnering with government, or kind of getting an understanding. How do you approach government and talk to people who are within the health sector about your technology, and maybe they're not even familiar with it? Like, how do you approach it? And maybe you can say it in very simple terms, because we have like 5 minutes. That would be a nice closing.
So if I may start, so I mentioned that, so as part of our process of trying to deploy a teleradiology platform, in Rwanda there are two main regulations, because as a technology you are collecting patient data, so you have to comply with the data protection regulations. And I think a couple months ago, on March 31st, there was the inauguration of the Data Protection Office, which is actually in charge of both registering and also approving different organizations that deal with especially very private data. And we've gone through the process of actually understanding what the requirements are, and actually first actually even making the changes to our products to make sure that we are compliant. So when we started 2 years ago, I think our system was running on Amazon. Plan was to store data in the US. But Rwanda had and still has the data localization regulation. But in addition, there is also the consent requirement. There are other things that you must have in place, like a way to notify users if there is a data breach. So part of it was really to actually look at what they have and understand what they need, what is required, and then approach them by showing them what you have, and actually, of course, making sure that you meet their requirements. Of course, the challenge, that's a requirement from the healthcare regulator to approve, because you need to first comply with the data security. The challenge usually comes in terms of who has the authority to make the final decisions on the approvals, and that's where we are now, in the sense that there seems to be an understanding of what is required, and yet it seems like it's a challenge to get something approved. So I also want to hear how others have gone about this, and yeah.
Thank you. So at HealthTech Africa, we are lucky that we are in partnership with the government, specifically Ministry of Health. So that helps us to bridge that gap. However, we still need to get the licenses and authorities to acquire data, but also to to conduct a clinical trial. We are also in partnership with different referral hospitals such as Shash UK, Rwanda Military Hospital, King Faisal, and also universities. So it doesn't help to, to ease the regulatory requirements, but when you work with them, it does make the process easier and straightforward. So yeah, having partnership with the Ministry of Health helps a lot in making sure that we are following the regulations in Rwanda.
So we have one thought very quickly, because we are out of time. So yeah, please, we have someone from Smart Africa who have a thought on this particular discussion.
So thank you very much for the flexibility. I liked the two questions. Actually, they pointed to the big...
Sorry, can you introduce yourself first?
Oh, sorry, my name is Grace from Smart Africa. Smart Africa is a Pan-African organization that works on accelerating digital development in Africa. And I'm aware that I have a very short time. I like the two questions by the two gentlemen, and it really pointed to the role of government. And I think that is where I feel in the room we have a big question on that. For your information, I'm aware that I'm talking to innovators in the room, so I just wanted to say that government, we are not in loggerheads with innovators. In fact, government wants to create a conducive environment for your innovations to thrive. The reason why each one of us probably has a bank account is because, you know, there's a regulator, the central bank, who ensures the bank does not run away with your money. So the same thing with government. We put policies to ensure that there's a conducive environment. As we talk right now, in the European Union, they're going to create the first ever global AI Act in the world that's going to look at the issue of regulating AIs. And we at Smart Africa are working very closely on this. We have the Artificial Intelligence Blueprint for Africa. It's available on our website. And it considers some key questions that everybody was asking. The issue of human capital. How do we train people in these technologies? Innovations, we are talking about research and development, infrastructure, and I think this is the one that's considered for data infrastructure, especially for AI, and then the key one, which I've just mentioned, regulation. And to bring the point home, for you, the startup, I do not want to use your services. If, for example, you're using AI that's going to bias my child in school, I'll just turn off from your innovation. So to bring the point home, I'm just saying that we need to work with governments to understand that government is only trying to protect your innovations, create an environment for your innovations. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we'll definitely reach out to you, because I think a lot of startups we have within the program will benefit from that blueprint and getting an understanding of, you know, how that, and also how they act, and perhaps maybe we could have some startups be used as a pilot to be able to build that act up. So thanks for the insight. I would like to thank our panelists. Thank you, Maureen, Yvonne, Odas, and Matt for joining us today, and thanks to the audience. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Sharon, and the amazing panelists. Can we give them one round of applause for that amazing conversation? So we've been having conversations on AI, data sharing, protecting information from customers, clients, and everything. So we have an interesting masterclass that is actually going to be happening. It's going to be given by the Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution Rwanda in Block 4, and they will actually, it will be on data protection. This is going to be an interesting one, and I urge all of you to go to Block 4 and not miss out on this particular chance. Also, snacks will be provided. So guys, go have a good time and then come back here for the closing ceremony. See you guys shortly.